Hi, everyone. Welcome back to First Principles. Today, I've got a dear friend and an old friend with me, Akshay, and we'll be talking about Vedic astrology. How are you doing, Akshay?
I'm very well, Saga. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Okay, so for the context of this episode, could you introduce yourselves to our audience?
Yeah, sure. We're discussing about astrology, so but I'll also discuss about my education background, where I come from, so that
Sure.
people just have a appreciation of where I'm coming from. So I moved to UK. I'm originally from Hyderabad, but I moved to UK when I was 17 years old to do my bachelor's. I went to University of Leeds to do my mechanical engineering. And then I've been in the construction industry as a mechanical consultant, and now I'm a net zero carbon lead, working for a sustainability consultancy in the UK. So been in the UK since 10 years. Over my journey in life, I've been introduced to the subject of astrology, which is my favorite passion. I'm very passionate about astrology. I mean, you can ask me how I was introduced to it. Well, it's via family.
Mm,
It's within the family. Like my mom and my dad, they both know astrology.
right.
For some reason, and in 2014, I think 10 years ago now, my father just asked me go get a book and pen, and it's like he started teaching me astrology, and I didn't know anything about astrology back then. But he taught me the basics. My mom and my dad, they taught me the basics about what astrology is and how the principles work. Somehow I got really passionate about it, and I just couldn't stop astrology since then. I kept learning, and then I think I'm still learning. It's a very deep subject, and it's a beautiful subject, and maybe that's why I'm here to discuss that. So over the span, I've seen more than 2,000 horoscopes now, and I think it really drives me to help people and to keep learning about astrology. So I think even before astrology, I was more into personality. Like whenever I
Mm,
talk to a person, when I meet people, I'm usually thinking, okay, why is this person thinking differently? Why is this person very different to me? And what makes him different? Why are there so many different personalities? And I think maybe I found all those answers with astrology.
right.
And when I say astrology, that's a very broad subject. I'm more into Vedic astrology.
Mm,
So I study the horoscopes, the study of planets, because astrology is very vast. But my sector, which I've been studying in, is the study of planets. So which we can call Vedic astrology. So we study the planets, the 9 planets, and their cosmic radiation and their impact upon the people. But again, I've narrowed it down. I love to look at personality side. So more than try and predict the future, tell them, yeah, this time is not really good, and so on, or the materialistic side. I really like to focus on the personality elements of the people, like what is the strong point, what is the weak point, and how can they overcome their weakness using the strong points, kind of thing. So I use the subject, and I've been learning the subject to mainly do personality analysis of the people. So that's kind of my background, where I'm coming from, or my keen interest, or my passion.
perfect. So, I mean, this podcast is about trying to extract the fundamental principles of any subject. So, this is perfect. Let me just start with a broad question. What is astrology? Like in a very broad definition.
That's a good point. I think people might be thinking astrology is like very different. Like in India, and when you go to China and Greece or UK, people might be thinking astrology is different everywhere. But the good thing for me, what happened is, because I've been in the UK and I was exposed to a lot of people at a young age from different countries. I was lucky enough to meet people from different countries who were into astrology as well, from China, Greece, and within the UK as well.
Right.
And what I understood is, after my discussions with them, the principle of astrology is pretty much the same wherever you go. Okay, it's how you interpret it is different. So for example, the 12 signs are the same, the planets, the study of the planets is the same. So how you're interpreting it and how you adapting it is different. For example, the Vedic astrology, the most important point in Vedic astrology is, if I talk a bit more technical, they introduced the concept of lagna.
Mm,
So that kind of changed that was a game changer in the Vedic astrology. Whereas the Western astrology doesn't have the concept of lagna. They just rely on the positions of the planets. So there's no timeline in the Western astrology, whereas Vedic astrology uses the concept of lagna, dasha, and so on, which helps much more confining the results or the predictions of what's happening in a person's life. So so far, even if you read anyone who's within the UK or any astrologer like Alan Leo and anyone who is a British astrologer, they have to go to India. They'll learn the subject in India. They know the Western astrology, but it's not complete without learning the Vedic astrology.
Right.
So they go to India, they learn the Vedic astrology, and then they start appreciating the subject as a whole. So the subject is only complete when you appreciate the Vedic astrology as well, along with the Western astrology.
Okay, let
So
me just summarize this back to you so that I understand. So astrology, you said the principles from different coming from different cultures are pretty much the same. The interpretation differs, and then in the Vedic system, which is the system from India, the interpretation has a timeline to it and certain concepts like lagna and a few other things that you said. Is so far so good?
that's right. But I
Okay.
think to answer your question, I think your question was what is astrology?
Hmm.
I think I explained how it's interpreted from different cultures. Maybe if I answer it much more precisely in one word, astrology is a study of planets. I mean, the Vedic astrology which we're studying is a study of planets and the cosmic radiation impact upon the people. That's what
Upon the
astrology
people.
is,
Okay.
on the
Okay.
people and their personality. Like you think differently, I think differently. Why?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's what the astrology kind of answers the question. So why are some people really intelligent? What makes people different? It's not like some people doesn't want to be intelligent, but sometimes they struggle to grasp things.
Hmm.
Why is that? So, and some people really struggle to contain their emotions. Some people are really good with containing their emotions naturally, irrespective of where they're brought up. So all this, I think the answers to them is within astrology. At least that's where I found my answers. And
Right.
but once you understand the subject as a whole, then
Hmm.
I think it's you'll get answers to a lot of questions in your life.
Before we delve deep, I have like a personal, I guess, hobby horse that I want to address with you. And that hobby horse is about misusing astrology or using it as a crutch or using it as an excuse. Because if you want something, you don't have something. I've got plenty of relatives who are like, okay, my shani is screwed. This and that is bad. So what do you say to that? And where does free will come in, if at all?
Well, that's actually a very good question. Unfortunately, what's happening right now is, to me, that the two things. One is ignorance. If you have blind faith in astrology, that's not good according to me, because if you're relying on someone, let's say if someone just tells you, oh, your Saturn is really bad, you have to do some pujas and all, you're actually not appreciating what's wrong in it. Or when people say there's mangal dosha, you can't marry the person, I don't think so many people actually appreciate what is Mangal Dosh and what
Mm,
happens if you marry. And
mm,
like, okay, they say Mangal Dosh is when Mars is in 1 4 7 10, but what does it actually do? And people don't go beyond what is it actually doing, and how can we actually, without even doing the remedies, what is it actually, and how can
mm,
we control it, and
mm,
can is it actually that bad kind of thing. And so there is a lot of ignorance about the subject, and because it's related to fear, like I think it can be easily taken advantage of. Like, let's say if you don't do a puja, people might say, oh, this is a bad period, and then they might tell you you're gonna get into trouble, and that's fear. And obviously when people are more fearful, then they'll get into it without understanding the true subject, as why is it not good, or what is actually going to happen in this period. At the same time, I do come across people who doesn't believe in the subject of astrology, uh, but they don't understand the subject at all as a whole. It's just because the predictions that someone gave them didn't come out true, and so that's why they believe that astrology doesn't exist. But my common example or annotation, or metaphor I use is, let's say you go to a doctor, and the doctor diagnoses your diseases as something wrong. No one blames the medicine as a subject. They just say, oh, the doctor was wrong, and I find the right doctor, found the right doctor. But when it comes to an astrologer, if an astrologer predicts the future wrong or gives you a wrong analysis, they immediately say, oh, astrology doesn't exist. Why can't you just say, oh, it's the astrologer, I should have gone to a better astrologer? So I think it's trying to understand the subject. It's a very complex subject, in-depth subject, and if you understand it, it's a beautiful subject. So, and and it's also down to interpretation of the people. People might be interpreting the text in a very different ways and might be giving out wrong predictions. So that's why two things is not good: blind faith in astrology or complete ignorance, and at the same time not having an open mind toward astrology. I think if you have an open mind, that's going to open you to a lot of opportunity to understand the subject and see and give answers to a lot of questions that you might be searching in your life. And you're right, there is a lot of free will. Let's say, even in the astrology, it says your period is not good for the
Hmm.
next 2 years. Doesn't mean you can't change it. There is a lot of free will. If you can use your willpower, you can achieve absolutely anything. In fact, if you believe in yourself and if you believe in God, you don't need astrology. If people say, do I need to believe in astrology? I would say no. You don't need astrology. Why would you need astrology if you can believe in yourself and if you can
Okay.
believe in God? That's because you have the capacity to fight any obstacle coming in life. Why do you
Hmm.
need it? Astrology is mainly used for people who are searching for some hope, some faith, or it's mainly people who are ignorant about themselves. Like people who come to me, they're like, this is what is going on in my life. I don't know how to deal with this, and they don't know where things are going wrong. But when I look at the personality, the horoscope, I immediately understand, okay, it's because of your personality you haven't understood him in the right way, and that's why it led to the buildup of the emotions and kind of stuff like that. Then the realization hits them. They're like, oh, I didn't realize this actually. So that realization part is what I'm searching for. Is there is a lot of people around us who are very ignorant about their actions sometimes, and astrology helps to understand their personality. What is the strong point, what is the weak point, and how can they work on it? So I think this is how you can uh, use the subject as a whole, the astrology, and not having blind faith and being open to the subject.
And being open to free will. I mean, so you
And
you
open to
said,
people,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if you come from those priors, then you see the subject, whatever your belief levels are, you see the subject more as like a landscape navigation tool rather than an edict from God that this is how you would be screwed forever. Like there's nothing you can do, and that is a very bad feeling.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. Always and always use a free will. And like, let's say even if my period is bad, for example, like I study my own horoscope, and even when people come to me and then when they ask me, should I do this and should I do this, I'm like, do it, but just be prepared that things may not go as you expect.
Hmm.
So just be prepared that you'll have more hurdles. Then it's not going to be as smooth as you would expect it to be. You might
Hmm.
be having hurdles, but just don't give up. Just keep trying until you get the result. As long as you're mentally prepared for that, just go for it.
Right.
And take a calculated risk. If someone wants to put let's say all the money into one pot and then say they can make it, then I would say this period is not actually a great period for you. Think about it.
Yeah.
Take a calculated risk rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Yeah.
just going and heading for a complete downfall. Just have a calculated risk and see if you can still make that risk without having to head for the downfall and put all the money into a single thing. So it's different ways you can use astrology on the personality side,
On a
on
risk
the period
assessment
side,
side.
on the risk assessment side. There's so many ways you can actually use a subject, but as long as you understand the subject as a whole and its limitations and its how beautiful and how useful it is and its advantages, I think that's where you will be able to omit all the what do you call the
Nonsense.
superstitions around it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there are a lot of superstitions around the subject, and which I'm sincerely trying to make sure that I can help people not to get into the superstitions of astrology. If you don't do this, ye ho jayega kind of thing. I just want to, kind of eliminate that and help people educate. So that's why I keep teaching astrology to a lot of people, so that when people just come and tell them, your Saturn is bad or your Mars is bad, you have to do this, they'll at least question. They'll understand. Okay, no, my Saturn is good. My Mars is good. Why are you saying that? So when you start questioning people, they'll be like, oh, okay, this guy knows the subject. So they'll be more careful when they give talk to you about the astrology subject or give you predictions.
So with predictions though, like before we get into the components, I want to resolve these issues that surround the subject before we really get into the component. With predictions, predictions are essentially statistical probabilities, right? That this might happen. They're not a prophecy. So I don't understand people getting upset at a probability which didn't work out. Like, there are weather predictions that there's going to be rain. And I live in a famous city in such a way that the rains just come anytime and anytime. So if there is no rain after 3 days, yeah, we could make our prediction models better, but that's not an indictment against the exercise of prediction, right? So why do you think that attitude exists? Why are people so like, okay, if someone said this is going to happen, even if they're not saying it in so many words, they say this might happen, people interpret it as like some kind of a command.
Yeah, again, it's coming down to one single point, isn't it? Of lack of appreciation
Hmm.
of the subject as a whole. Once you start learning the subject, you'll understand how depth the subject is. And
Okay.
what we are studying is just 10% of the subject. Like even after 10 years, I don't think so. I know more than 20% of the subject. I mean, I went into quite depth. I've studied a lot of books. I spoke to a lot of people, but there's still a lot more to learn about it. Okay. It's a never-ending subject. The amount of depth you can go into it is just nevertheless.
Right.
And the best way to learn astrology is always more horoscopes you look at, the more you learn. It's like being
Right.
a doctor.
Right.
The more you gain the experience, the more you learn. The same with astrology. The more horoscopes you look at, the more you learn. So the question to answer is, it's just coming down to understanding how the subject works. So it's not about predictions getting right. It's about what I do is, if you give me a horoscope, I'm not bothered about making the predictions 100% right or no. It's about me sitting down with you and understanding, Saga, this is what I say. These are your strengths. These are your weakness. Does it match? Okay. And usually it matches. If it matches, then I'll be like, okay, so have you worked on your weak points? And how can we work on the weak points and use the strong points? If it doesn't match, then there's no point in going forward.
Right.
Okay. That means either there's a lot of things that needs to be right to get the predictions right. First thing, we need your time of birth, your place of birth, and all those things will make a difference to the horoscope.
Decision.
Let's say
Right.
if you give me like, oh, you might say it's I might be born in the night time sometime, then I can't give you accurate predictions because it needs to be precise, the time of birth, because the lagna keeps changing every 2 hours. So if your lagna is at the cusp, then there's chances that the lagna is different, and if it changes, then the entire life of or the entire horoscope changes quite significantly. So it really depends on the accuracy of the information you're providing. So the best way to approach it is take the horoscope, try and match it with your life. If it matches, well, go for it. If it doesn't match, then maybe the timing of the information you provided is not accurate, or the interpretation by the astrologer is not knowledgeable enough. So you just move on to a different astrologer or learn the subject yourself and then try and predict it and try and do the analysis yourself. More than prediction, I would call it analysis. So that's why I won't call it prediction. I would always say it's an analysis and it's a discussion between two people about the astrology or within themselves about the subject. So it's always an analysis because you're trying to figure out, if this combination is here, this is why it's causing me this emotional problem, my judgmental problem, and my intelligence problem, and so on.
Okay, let's double click on the framework then. What are the components of Vedic astrology? Like, so the planets and nakshatras, all of these words are currently not totally alien to me, but alien enough. So, what are the major components here?
And I think if you think about it simply, it's we are on the earth. So omit the earth. So this is the earth. I can't see. I can't see. I don't know if you can see my arm here,
I
but
can.
my
I can see your hands.
yeah. So let's say this is the earth. Okay, and there's a circle around it, right? And first of all, I think I need to ask you a question. When we say, what is your zodiac, or when we say you're a Leo, you're a Libra, what does it actually mean? So, do you know what does Libra mean, or what does Leo mean in actual terms?
No, the only closest explanation I have, I'm a Gemini, so I think it's like, at least in the Western system, the way the stars were there at a particular time. But that's all I know.
Exactly. So I think we need to understand the basics. It's like a zodiac circle around the earth. Okay, like, can you see latitudes and longitudes? No,
No.
it's just an imaginary line.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I want to know where Sagar is right now, you just give me your latitudes and longitudes and I can come to you,
Right.
pinpoint accuracy, right? But at the same time, if I want to know where Venus is right now, how do I know? So to determine that, they have formed a circle around the earth, which is a zodiac circle, zodiac belt they call sometimes, and they divided it into 12 equal parts. Okay, which are the signs which we talk about on a day-to-day basis. starting from Aries, ending to Pisces. So this is a full circle.
Right.
Each sign is 30 degrees. So
30
12
degrees.
times 30 is 360 degrees,
Hmm.
right? 360 degrees is a circle, right? So what we talk about is 12 equal parts of the zodiac belt in the sky. And when we say Venus is in, let's say, Virgo 10 degrees, that means at the time of your birth, Venus is actually located in the Virgo at 10 degrees. And that gives an indication to us, to the astrologer, to the horoscope, and whoever is reading the horoscope. Oh, Venus is in Virgo. Okay. So Venus has a characteristic, Virgo has a characteristic. You overlap them and try and understand, okay, so Venus, Virgo, will they go hand in hand? Is it a good position or is it a bad position? And then you use that to come up with the analysis of the personality. So that's and that you do that for each and every planet, not
So
just one planet.
I have to stop you. I'm sorry. I lost you after just before you said Venus is in Virgo. So I got the part where there's the whole circle, everything, every, I guess, constellation, not constellation, every sign is 30 degrees. But then I lost you. Sorry. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So Earth, circle,
yeah.
equal parts. Okay. Now you're born, let's say today, right now. What we do is take a screenshot of the sky when
Okay.
you're born.
Okay.
Okay. And let's say when you're born today, right now, the Venus is in Virgo. Okay. At the time of your birth. So that's what we study. The snapshot of the sky at the time of your birth is
Okay.
what we study.
Okay.
Okay. And when you're born, the Venus was located at Virgo 10 degrees. And that will give us an indication of what your personality is.
Right. Right. No, I was just trying, I just want to understand the Venus is in Virgo point. I get the snapshot, I get the personality part. But are we saying that the actual planet Venus is in the Virgo circle or the Virgo angle in that particular thing?
Yeah, it's in relate. That's a good point, actually. That's in relative to Earth. It doesn't mean
Right.
Venus is actually Virgo. Obviously, we have drawn a circle around the Earth. That is, the circle is in relative to Earth, right?
Right. Right.
So so when you're standing on the Earth and when you're looking towards the Virgo constellation, you see that that's still in the northern hemisphere. You see that Virgo is still from the Earth position that's sitting in the Virgo constellation, and
Right.
that's where you see, okay, this is where it's sitting in relative to the Earth. Okay,
Right. Right.
doesn't mean it's actually. I mean, there's no such thing as Virgo in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something we created with respect to the Earth. If that makes sense,
Yeah, yeah.
Sagar.
And Virgo, so Virgo, Gemini, Capricorn are again the stars that we can see from Earth, from our position. The
No, it's
constellation of stars.
yes. I mean, yes and no. Okay. So again, signs are just parts, equal parts. It's you can't see them, right?
Ah,
But
okay,
what
okay,
you
okay, okay.
so it's an imaginary thing, right? But what you can
Right.
see is we're talking about stars. Each sign has stars within them. That's
Right.
called nakshatras. We are
Ah,
not dwelling into nakshatras now. Okay,
okay.
nakshatra is a different topic. We are
Right.
only talking about signs.
Right.
Science is something you can't see.
Okay. So it's
Okay,
like latitude, longitude. It's made up, but it's made up to understand something deeper.
exactly. Because
Right.
I need, for example, I need the reference of Venus.
Right.
Okay, how do I understand where is Venus right now? So for that we have created a location reference. Like when
Hmm.
you say latitudes, longitudes xxx, latitudes xxx, what does it mean? It means there's no actual lines drawn, but
Hmm.
I can come to you without anything else. If you give me the number, I don't even need the address. In a similar way, if you tell me Venus 10 degrees Virgo, then I'll actually understand, okay, Venus is actually in this location, but it's also understood it's in relative to Earth. Okay.
Right.
So that means it's from the reference of Earth. Let's say if you're sitting from Mars, everything else changes.
Yeah.
It's only valid when you're looking at through Earth in relative to Earth.
You also said in the northern hemisphere. You mentioned that in passing. So it depends where you are on the Earth as well.
No, I mean, I think it's again the circle we're talking about.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it is goes and then ends. It's a complete circle, right? So
Right.
that's what I'm talking about. So
Okay.
that's something very different. So
Okay. 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 All right. We'll get to that. So what else? What are the other components?
so we started with the zodiac signs,
Hmm.
and then it's all about now understanding what is the significance of each sign, okay, and then what is the significance of each planet.
Okay.
So those are the important factors. So once you understand them, then you'll be able to understand or come to a an analysis of how the mind works, how your mind works. So for example, if I give an example, moon is your mind, sun is your individuality, Mercury is your intelligence, right? How you talk to people, how you communicate with people, Mercury. Saturn is how is your hardworking nature and your patience levels, and so on. I can talk about all the nine planets like
Go
that.
ahead, talk about them.
Okay, Saturn has a significance. And what are the other planets we have? Jupiter is your knowledge, it's the guru. Okay, it's how tactful you are in
Hmm.
life. And what is the other planet I'm missing here? Mars is the is your courage, is your energy that you can actually overcome. I mean, your capacity to overcome an obstacle. Let's say there's an obstacle coming in your life, and then do you have the capacity to face it, or are you scared of it, and you can withstand it? That's all determined by the mass.
Hmm.
Okay, again, so that's, we covered sun, moon, Mars, and then we have the two planets, which is the shadow planets called Rahu and Ketu. Um, so Rahu is the Maya side, and then Ketu is the detachment side. So Rahu mainly discusses about the Maya, and then it's also, if you use it good, it's also the technology research. If you're doing research, you need Rahu. Okay, whereas Ketu is more about detachment,
Hmm.
and spiritualism. So that's what Ketu talks about.
And
So,
are they like eclipses? I mean, they're not really planets, right? But I think the
no,
closest
they
one.
are
Okay,
yeah, they are shadowy planets. That's
right,
right. So
right.
that's a funny question, because people do ask, okay, Rahu and Ketu, I can't see them. Where are they? It's kind of what in the way that, I mean, if you read the Vedic astrology books and all, it's kind of what it says is it's the north and south node of the moon, and
Okay.
they're shadowy planets, and it's eclipse. It forms the eclipse,
Hmm.
and but I think you can't actually see them. But in the Vedic astrology, you do have effects that's coming from them. So that's why it's very important, and it's only actually in the Vedic side. I don't think so. I haven't seen them being studied on the Western astrology. Western astrology only study this the normal planets, whereas Vedic astrology, the reason Vedic astrology is so beautiful, or I would say more than beautiful, is more, I associate with Vedic astrology even more, or logically, is it also introduced a concept of lagna. So, which means it's based on the sunrise and the time of birth. Okay,
Right.
and that determines lagna. And then what happens is, as you keep as the sunrise keeps going, or as you keep what do you call this, if you're born further away from the sun, from the sunrise, the lagna keeps changing every 2 hours. Okay, so that kind of determines what's the first house, second house, third house. um, these houses are very important. Again, each house has a significance, and that determines, let's say you're going to have a problem, but where is the problem actually coming from? Is it coming from the fourth house, which is related to the properties, related to the mother, and related to internal peace?
Hmm.
Or is it coming from, fifth house, which is related to your talent, which is related to your love, which is related to your, children? So we have fine-tuned it even more with the Vedic astrology by introducing the concept of lagna. So to summarize, we need to understand the signs, which is the 12 signs which we just spoke about. You need to understand the significance of planets,
Hmm.
and then you need to understand the houses, the
Which
12
is
houses.
related to Lagna, which is related to the sunrise at a particular spot at a particular time.
That's why we need your time of birth. That's
Okay.
right.
So I have a lot of clarifying questions. So let me just go through them first before we delve deeper. The first thing is how are okay. So in this model, the sun and the moon in I guess scientific astronomy, they are not planets. They're a satellite and that's a star. But I suppose this framework is Earth centric and we perceive them as celestial bodies. So that's why we call it planets. Is that a correct interpretation?
That's that's absolutely it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's exactly it.
What about let's say, harmonization of Vedic astrology with scientific astronomy? So Pluto, and then the billions and millions and billions and trillions of whatever galaxies and planets and stars and, I don't know, multiverses. Do they have any effect, or it's not significant enough for us? So that's the reason we don't study it. Or are we still researching?
No, I think it's all about what we're saying is the way astrology works is the radiation that's coming from the planets will have an impact on the people, right?
Yeah,
So that's why we studied all the planets that's in the closer radius to the Earth,
right.
okay,
Right.
and
That we
which
could
is
see, that people could
that we
see.
could see
Right.
and big enough to make an impact.
Right.
We do have Pluto, yes, we do have Neptune, and in the horoscope, you can actually people started putting Neptune and Pluto,
Mm.
but not many people read it because the significance and the distance matters. So Saturn, Jupiter, they're huge, right? So they have a huge impact. And whereas Mars, although they're not huge, they're very close to the Earth.
Mm.
Mars, Venus. So that's why I think it's very important that we study the planets which are closer to the Earth's radius. And yes, you're right. There are hundreds and millions of other planets which we may not even discovered. But are they closer to the Earth? No.
Right.
If they're closer to Earth, they will have an impact. So that's why I keep saying, yes, there might be a lot of things which is undiscovered, which we may not have actually seen, or which we may not have discovered, even in the close range of Earth. So I'm not saying that's why we should always rely on the predictions 100%, because sometimes it's beyond our understanding what's happening in this
Yeah, yeah.
universe.
Just to add to that point, and a comment really, any scientific theory is at best well formed, hopefully, with Occam's razor. So there is an Occam's razor which comes in, you form the hypothesis, you test, you replicate, and you see if it's falsified or not. It's the best working version that we have. If something else comes in, the working version, the theory expands. So in
That's
the
correct.
same vein is Jyotish or Vedic astrology. Is it an open system, open to research, or is it pretty much closed off?
I mean, I don't. I mean, I think the way it's currently going is we our sages like you could say Brugge and Parasara, they've done huge research. There's a lot of books which we are still even struggling to read and interpret.
Oh,
Okay, so the wealth of information. If you really want to get into it, there's huge of information. So unfortunately, it's just what we are currently accessing or just limiting our access to, and
yeah.
what we are reading and how we are interpreting. If you really want to get into depth of the subject, of course, there's a lot of information which we still haven't gone through, I
Mm,
would say. There is already the research done
mm.
by our great sages long ago. It's just that we haven't maybe had full.
Integrated them.
Exactly, yeah, we haven't integrated them, and I believe there's an answer to literally everything in those scripts written by them.
Okay.
Okay, it's just our interpretation, our limitations that's causing the problem, but not the lack of information. I think we have pretty much everything in there to give us a good enough predictions or knowledge or analysis. But how you analysis, like if you read the script, if I read the script, our minds, based on our intellectuality, we do the analysis in our own way,
Mm,
and then we start teaching people in our own way, right? So there's a lot of things lost in the translation coming
right.
from generations, right?
Right.
But if you want to, if you're searching, if you're thirst for true knowledge, then go and explore it with the sages who might be sitting in the Himalayas or where the true scripture is lying. So I'm sure you'll find the answers there. So I don't think so. There's research need to be done. I think the research has already been done. It's all about how we access it and how we analyze it is going to be my kind of answer
Okay.
to it.
So a few more clarifying questions here. So who are the sages? Brigu, you said one sage is Brigu.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we got Brigu and then we got Parasara, who I commonly know, right? So and I think those are like I think we call them father of astrology kind of thing, the Parasara, and who has main father of Vedic astrology, right?
Right.
So these are the main people who has kind of wrote all the scriptures and brought astrology to us,
Mm.
and then that led to this invention or kind of discovery, I would say, not invention of astrology. So I think I mean, it's all my knowledge is limited because I only know what I've read right? So we never know what actually happened, who's been
Yeah.
what do you call this, the main point or pivotal in this. But it's usually attributed to two people, Parasara and also Briga. So, and those are the two people who has given us the scripts, and there are a lot of other people as well. I think I think Jalmani and a few other sages, but I won't delve too much into it. But these are the sages who has given us all the scripts, the Vedic scripts, Vedic astrology scripts, and which has, you know, gave us all this beautiful subject which we are reading today, and it's become a great subject in India right now. I don't think so anyone really, any family goes without knowing the Vedic astrology subject. Everyone talks about it, everyone knows about it, everyone has their own opinions, but people
Nobody
do come
really knows
across it.
about it.
I wouldn't say no one knows about it. I would, no, no, that's depending on their interests.
Yeah.
But everyone will have their own opinions about it. But everyone will have some opinion on astrology or will come across astrology. That's the effort that our sages has put in or made effort, that there's no way any person in India can go away saying, "Oh, I never heard of astrology. What is it?" kind of
Okay.
thing. So everyone must have heard of it. So.
I want to spend some time on the whole time aspect of it. And the reason I'm asking is because timekeeping is a relatively, I mean, relatively in the sense in the geological scale, relatively new invention or whatever, right? And different cultures would had different calendars, and they still do. Now we use the common era calendar across the world, but we still have a Hindu calendar, an Islamic calendar, a Chinese calendar, all of those things. So how do those issues come in? And then the other thing is, I read a book by Khushwant Singh, I think his autobiography, where he said that he does not know the exact date or the time when he was born because like some families didn't really care about that. Um, now, what issues can a astrologer have if such a client comes in? So just spend some time on how precise does the timekeeping need to be. Actually, before you do that, I one more gory question. Some kids are born in a, like, generally I think children come out head first, from the birth canal. Now sometimes there could be a cesarean section as well. What is exactly birth here? What the doctor says, because he could be distracted, so and that and in that time the lagna can be gone, or when the whole baby comes out immediately. What is the precision that we're after here?
Well, I think to answer your second question first, I think when we say time of birth, it's the time the baby has come out.
Come
Okay,
totally
uh,
come out. Okay.
come out, and the day the cosmic radiation has started. That's
Okay.
because it's within the womb. What we're saying is there's no cosmic radiation. The mother is protecting the child.
Right. Right.
Once they come out, they're then subject to the cosmic radiations, and that's when their personality starts and the life with related to the cosmic radiation will begin. So that's why we need the time of birth and the snapshot of that at that moment.
So the
And
mother's horoscope or the mother's personality doesn't affect at all, or even the father's for that matter? Is it just the
mother's
person
horoscope
itself?
does, because when you look at the mother's horoscope, you look
Hmm.
at the fifth house and see what's the fifth house like. So it does have an impact on the children's horoscope as well. So
Right.
usually that's another, that's why it gets more and more
Yeah,
complex when
yeah.
we go in. What happens is usually I look at the horoscope, right? And then I can see, let's say the ninth house is not very strong, and or fourth house is not very strong. Fourth house relates to mother, and say, oh, are you concerned about your mother? And usually when it turns out to be right, when you go and check the mother's horoscope, she must be going to the same tough time in a horoscope. So
Hmm.
the way it works is it interlinks, and that drive, initially I was like, what, how can this all be interlinked so much? Like, it says the mother is going through a tough time in a child's horoscope, and when you look at the mother's horoscope, she is going through a tough time in the horoscope, and that's why
Right.
she's going. So I'm like, how is this all interlinked? So, but to me, that's beyond my interpretation.
But it is in a framework. So there is a formula which is working clearly, right? Even if
Oh,
we can't
it is,
understand
yeah.
it. Right.
But I'm like, how is this all, how is this all being linked? That just amazes me every time. Astrology so far has never ceased to surprise me or amaze me so far.
Hmm.
10 years into it, and not a single day I look at horoscope, I pick a horoscope, I'm always amazed. I'm always learning something new. So I think that's answer to your second question.
Hmm.
And sorry, I forgot your first question. What
Yeah,
was your
even I did, but I can ask another way. Precision, right? So we're talking about milliseconds, seconds, minutes, and hours. What's the precision? I am a little, I guess, crazy about this, so I need to be
no? I
precise.
think no. I think, as I said, it's all coming down to the 2 hours
Two
lagna.
hours. Okay.
Okay, but lagna has 30 degrees. If
Right.
it's a cusp, let's say if it's at 29.9 minutes or 29.29 minutes, right? It's about to go into the next lagna, into
Yeah.
the next sign, sorry.
Yeah.
Then we need to be more precise. So usually I do come across people who has a lagna at 29 degrees. So what we have to do is we have to sit down with them and then kind of, let's say Capricorn and Aquarius, right? He has lagna at 29 degrees in Capricorn. I don't take Capricorn as Lagna. So what I do is, I mean, I do take it, but I do analysis for Capricorn. I
Right.
do analysis for
Because both
Aquarius
can have an
and see,
effect.
no, and I talk to him and see which one is actually closely matching.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Capricorn? Is it Aquarius? Which one matches with with
Right.
his personality more closely?
Mm.
And that's kind of that's what derives. I mean, that's, and we kind of say, okay, I think it's not Capricorn, it might be Aquarius because your personality matches more closely with Aquarius
Right.
Lagna. So let's take Lagna as a, sorry, Aquarius as a Lagna, and
Okay.
it's kind of, digging in deep and trying to match. And if you want that pinpoint accuracy, you just need to sit down with the person and work with astrology and with this timeline.
Right.
And sometimes, like when I started looking at my horoscope, I kind of figured out, okay, it's off by 3-4 months. Okay, so I kind of say, okay, so maybe my time of birth is like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, not so accurate. So when you
Right.
sit down with the person, you can tweak the time of birth and everything to suit your timeline that's happening in your life, and astrology should match usually.
To match the facts on the ground. I mean
Yes.
okay, all right. Location. Now, how precise the location needs to be? Does it need to be like what delivery drivers use nowadays with Ubers and or like basically will give you the exact street and perhaps the exact floor as well? Or is it just the city? And the reason I ask you is I grew up in Delhi. Uh, and RK Puram once was a village outside Delhi. But somebody now born in RK Puram will say I was born in Delhi. But what is Delhi? What is the exact sort of sphere of Delhi? So when they ask for the location, what exactly are you after? How precise does that need to be?
Again, my answer sits in my previous
Hmm.
one. So all I'm worried about is what is the timing of the sunrise. Okay,
Ah,
so doesn't matter. You Delhi, Hyderabad, is the sunrise the same because the sunrise do change from Hyderabad to Delhi.
yeah,
Okay, so to me, all I need is a sunrise.
right.
What is the timing of the sunrise? And usually, it's not changing much from Hyderabad to Delhi. Maybe I'm not
It is
that
changing
expert, but
somewhat, but yeah, not
yeah,
much. Sure.
not much. But let's say in the USA, I think the time zone itself changes. You
Yeah.
got, I think, I don't know, I think you got 4 time zones in US,
In the
right?
continental US, four, and then overall, I guess 6 or 8.
Yeah, I can't understand that because it's spread out the vast US. So I think, yeah, so the time zone is very important. But lucky enough, we are in the technology zone right now. You don't need to do all the hard work. What you
Hmm.
have to do is the daylight timing, savings, on off, everything is taken into consideration, and you can just put that into an app or wherever you're doing the calculations, and
Hmm.
then you have access to all these apps where you can just key in the location
Hmm.
and the time of birth. They'll calculate the daylight savings. They'll calculate what's the sunrise in that particular location, and then they'll give you the horoscope and the lagna, everything based on that. So the hard work for you
Is
was
done.
all done, because I used to look at my mom when she used to do the horoscopes. There was 20 years ago, there was no apps or anything like that. So she used to have this big book of panchangam with her,
Wow.
where it has all the sunrises and all the calculations. She used to sit down and draw all this calculation, do the calculations to come up with the horoscope chart itself. What is the lagna? Look at this time of location, sunrise in the locations. So it's really hard work, and I think we're grateful that all the horoscope charts are done at a just a split second in these apps nowadays. There are hundreds of apps, but again, you have to just check the reliability
Right, right,
of
right.
those apps. But I think they're mostly reliable.
And even
And
even time zones, and because daylight saving time, I mean I don't get the whole point of that in the current era. So they should just get rid of that. Just stick to standard time. But time zones also is a way that a human imposition, because technically it's all continuous. I mean, like in the US, Eastern time has a lot of miles to cover, and the sun is going to be different. Like, and there is things in India where India, northeast of India, wants like two time zones, which kind of makes sense. China, such a vast country, one time zone, so that doesn't make sense. But either way, so that part is also taken care of, and also, if you're near the poles, you'll have like longer days and longer nights. So even that is, you're saying, accounted for. Okay, wow, that's a lot of work.
Exactly. So that's why we don't just ask for country in the app. Is what they ask for is the city you're born in. So, and sometimes it does go down to the precision of towns as well. So
Yeah,
the
or the
more
street.
accurate. I think that's way too much, but I think right now, if you go into the app, they usually ask for city, what city you're born in. Like, if you just put in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, that will take care of it. Yes, again, there is some it's accuracy issues. Like you can say, well, the sunrise is off by 4 or 5 minutes, but you have to look at, is it actually making an impact? It will make an impact when it is at the cusp, but lucky enough, I think 90% of the horoscopes I come across, they're like 15 degrees Lagna, 16 degrees Lagna. So even if there's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes off, it won't impact the horoscope much,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, and we can usually work out that inaccuracies during the discussion times with the individuals. And
Okay.
so that can be ironed out. So all these inaccuracies can be ironed out when you start discussing with the person, sit down with them, and then try and understand and discuss, this is what I see, is this actually matching? And when they come out with it's off by 2 3 months, then you can adjust the timelines or time of birth accordingly. So but it shouldn't be like you predicting the person is like he's like really an extroverted person with who is really humorous, and it turns out to be a completely introverted person who's like completely opposite to what you're predicting. That means something is going wrong. Okay,
Right.
that means it's not just time of birth, it's also the date of birth which is going wrong, because it can't change that much in times. Okay, the overall personality should be somewhat there, it's just that the timeline may not match.
Hmm.
But if the entire personality is going out to be wrong or completely opposite, then I think there's something wrong here, and that the interpretation is being wrong, or the details they provided is wrong, or something is wrong there. So you have to immediately stop and not take it anymore further.
When would you say no to somebody if they, like there are people, especially in India, who would not know their exact time of birth? I mean, that's just that. So what's the like? When do you say no? That this is going to be difficult for me to, even start this exercise if such a person comes to you.
As long as there's no time of birth, I would say I think it's
You
very
can't.
difficult.
Okay.
I mean you have to think about it this way. Moon moves from one sign to another sign every 2.5 days.
Mm.
Okay, and then Sun takes 30 days, and then Mars takes 41 days, and so on, right? Whereas Saturn takes 2.5 years to move from one sign to another sign. So most of the planets, if it's just within the day, the only thing that's got two things will change. One is Lagna, the other one is Moon.
Mm.
Unless the other planets are at the cusp of it, again, 29 degrees, it might change. So, but usually, if you just have the date of birth and not time of birth, all you can do is just do the analysis of these planets and just give some vague prediction,
Mm.
which is of no help to them or to me,
Yeah.
because we can't come into many meaningful conclusions or meaningful analysis over there. So yes, and based on this position of the planets, which doesn't move for a long time, maybe you can do some analysis, but is it going to help them? I don't
Mm.
think so.
With this
So
framework, I mean, there are other ways people can be helped, but this is not going to be very helpful for them.
yes, yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, you need the accuracy when for people to believe in it, or for people to understand, or for people to find some meaningful help from astrology. You need some level of accuracy. If
Right.
there's no accuracy, then what's the point even dwelling into it deep and then trying to make use of it? So then, if you don't have time of birth, then I would say, well, it's okay, leave it, and then trust yourself, trust God, and then just move on. Would is what I would say. Yeah.
Oh, there are other ways. I mean, there are other ways. It's just that this is not
Yeah,
going to
yeah, of
be for
course.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 This framework will, astrology wise, I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
may not be
Yeah.
the right way to do it. Yeah.
Okay. We talked about planets. You listed them out. You talked about their effects on us. Could you just talk about the signs as well? Just to list them out because it'll just make it more real. So you start with Aries, and then what does Aries have any psychological effects? And then what's the next one?
I mean, if you start going into the signs, then there's a lot of depth in it. Each all the signs
Hmm.
has a lot of layers within them. Like, are there what kind of elements are there actually with? Are you still here,
Yeah, I'm
Saga?
there.
I
I'm
think
there. I'm there. I'm
yeah.
there. I can hear
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Like Aries is, for example, associated with fire sign. Okay. Taurus is earthy sign. Gemini is airy. Cancer is water. Leo is fire again. and then you got Virgo, which is earthy, Libra is airy, and then you got Scorpio, which is water, and then you got um, Sagittarius, which is fire. You got Capricorn, which is earthy.
Mm.
You got Aquarius, which is airy, and then finally Pisces, which is water.
Mm.
Right? These are all the four elements that keeps repeating within three times, and each has a significance. Okay, like so we spoke about three signs which has fiery sign, which is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Again, within the fire sign, they differentiate. Okay, like Aries is head on. Like what happens with Aries is, let's say they got the sun placed in Aries, which is an exalted sign. They're like very strong individuals. Okay, they like to do what they want to do, and they can just get head on. They don't think about, oh my god, what do they think about me, and shall I consider them, and so on. They just like
Yeah.
to do what they want to do, and
Mm.
then crack on with life. Okay, so that's why sun is exalted there, because it gives them that strong individuality. Whereas Leo, again, it's a fire sign. It's not as forceful as Aries. It's still confident. It is still strong individual, but what they do is, they like to think about others and do things in a subtle way rather than in a forceful way. Like, let's say I'll say, Saga, don't do this. You'll be like, okay, Akshay, but you'll still do it. But you'll just say on my face, like,
Yeah.
okay, I won't do it. It's okay, Akshay. You'll try and convince me.
Yeah.
But if it's Aries, it's like, I don't care, Akshay, what you say. I'll just do it, kind of thing. Okay. I mean, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Sagittarius is Sagittarius is another fire sign, which is very keen about justice. It can't just handle injustice. They need justice. They care about the society. They care about the people around them,
Mm.
and they can't. They want justice for everyone. And when sun is positioned there, then their individuality is very strong again, but they're more towards the righteousness, the dharma, and trying to protect the religion, or whatever the field is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's so, as you can see, each sign, although it's fire sign, is very different to each other.
Mm.
And the same will happen with water, same will happen with Aries signs. So each sign has a significance on its own, by its own. And the true astrologer will actually understand its significance in depth.
Right.
That's where the true knowledge lies. Once you understand the depth, because it's just not the elements, there's also, if you go into it, I'm not sure if you heard of this three things, which is, I think it also relates to the body parts. Actually, each and
Mm.
every sign relates to the body part as well. So I think it's the more you understand, the more you depth you go into, the more you learn. Like, there's also something called fixed, mobile, and dual. Okay, like Aries is a fixed sign, Taurus is a mobile sign, and then Gemini is a dual sign, and it just keeps repeating throughout the 12 signs.
Okay.
Okay, so fixed sign, when let's say, you have more planets in the mobile sign, that means people love to travel.
Mm.
Okay, and it's kind of those kind, understanding the significance of the planets. But what people miss out is, I just told you, sun in Aries means he'll be a strong individual, but he may not be,
Mm.
because you're just looking at sun. But what about all the other planets?
Right.
And something called aspects. Okay, so aspects means sun might be aspecting Saturn might be aspecting Sun.
Mm.
What happens in that case? Saturn and Sun are bitter enemies. Okay, and Saturn takes away the power of the Sun.
Right.
So you look at the Sun; it's in Aries. You're gonna go, because I just told you. Akshay just said he should be a strong individual, and you said, "Oh, you must be a strong individual." He might come back to you saying, "No, I'm not a strong individual. I'm actually, yeah, I fear to take decisions. I think about the society. I have a feeling of lack all the time." That's
Mm.
because there's a Saturn aspect.
Right.
Okay, so it's never look at the astrology just looking at an individual planet. You always and always, it should be a holistic approach.
Mm.
Have you analyzed each and every planet within the horoscope? Have you analyzed the aspects on each planet, and then come up with the analysis as a whole? Like, if you don't have power in the sun, I'm sure you'll have power in the Mars, or moon somewhere else, which will power you to overcome the obstacles.
Mm,
Okay. If
mm.
you just base your analysis on sun, that will never be accurate. You have to
Right.
always do the analysis of each and every planet, each and every house, and that's what will give you the true, proper, or accurate analysis of what your personality is.
Okay.
And for example, that brings me to a very good point. When you go to a temple in India, they'll ask you for your Rashi,
Mm,
right? What is your Rashi? So what do you think they're asking about when when you tell your Rashi in India, in the Hindu temples? Because Rashi, which we discussed, is the zodiac sign, which is the 12 signs, and you're attributed to a single Rashi. And what Rashi do you think they have been attributed to? No one knows. I mean, maybe some might know, but it's the moon Rashi that they ask about in the Hindu temples.
the moon
That's
Rashi.
because,
Okay.
yeah. So if you have a Rashi, that's where your moon is positioned in.
Right.
Okay. And the reason is moon is your mind. And we give, in the Indian culture, they give a lot of importance to moon.
Mm,
Okay. And based on the moon, and when they say nakshatra, they might be asking you, "Hey, what, Saga, what is your nakshatra?"
mm.
Right? Again, that's a moon nakshatra. Okay. I'll maybe dwell into it later. What I mean by moon nakshatra is your moon is located in a Rashi, but it's also located behind the moon. There's also nakshatra. In what nakshatra it is located in. That's what determines what nakshatra you are.
Right.
Okay, so it's all we're attributing everything to nakshatra. And when you once you tell your nakshatra, once you tell your sign that I'm let's say I'm a Virgo sign, and once you tell I'm I'm a particular nakshatra, then they'll be like, oh, so you might be having so and so personality. Great, okay. They only considered your moon. What about the sun, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu, Ketu, Venus, all of these planets? Where did they
Mm,
all go?
mm.
So, and whereas when you go into Western astrology, they ask, what is your zodiac sign? What is zodiac sign? In their terms, it's sun sign, they call it
Right.
sometimes. So they give a lot of importance to sun, the
Mm,
individuality of the person.
yeah.
So based the things which you read in the calendar on a day-to-day basis, based on the months, right? When you're born in, let's say in April or May,
Mm,
there's the dates associated with it, and they
mm.
call you Aries,
Yeah.
and it keeps on going, right? And they give you a personality based on that, but they're only looking at one single planet, which is the sun. And let me tell you, that's also the dates that's in there, that's outdated. Okay, we have because as we those are the not true, like, unfortunately it's not accurate anymore. The sun is not in Aries during that period of time.
Mm,
It keeps moving. Obviously we have leap years, as I said. Actually, let me cut off this topic. I'll focus on the moon and the western side, and the
sure.
what do you call this, the Indian side. So on
Mm,
Indian side, they're talking more about the moon. They're focused more on the moon side.
mm.
So they're giving a lot of importance on where moon is positioned in your horoscope. On the western side, they're giving a lot of importance on where the sun is positioned.
Right.
Okay. And based on the sun, they kind of derive your personality. But no one considers what is happening to the sun. Who is the sun in conjunction with? What is happening to the aspect? And what's happening with Mars, with all the other planets? So this, unfortunately, if you just look at this bits and pieces, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's always look at the whole picture. If you really want to know astrology, that's what you have to do,
Okay.
not just look at the small bits.
You said something, you used the term exalted. You said exalted. What does that mean in this context? And
I think in simple ways, if you're learning astrology, um, and you want to understand, to me right now, exalted, debilitated means not much to me. But if you're new to astrology, you're
mm,
trying to learn if it's a strong position for sun or is it a weak position for sun. Our sages, they made our life easy by saying sun is exalted in Aries and sun is debilitated in Libra,
right.
right? What does it actually mean? That means sun is at the extreme power and it's very powerful in Aries. And when it says debilitated, obviously sun is not at the best of its ability.
Right.
So, and what happens is people said, "Oh, that's great," and then people kind of said, "If sun is strong, then you'll have a great life," and so on. But no one actually questioned why is sun exalted in Aries, why is sun debilitated in Libra.
Right.
So that's where your true knowledge again comes. A true astrologer should always understand, to them, exaltation, debilitation should mean nothing.
Okay.
Okay. Because to me, just because your sun is exalted doesn't mean that it's going to be you're going to have a great life. Okay. Because how you use it, how you use the power is important. That's good. You have a power. Okay. How do you use it? What does sun exalted mean? Sun is a fiery sign, sitting in a fiery sign, which is Aries, which we just spoke about, that it will give them immense power to do whatever they want in life, to have a strong individuality. Let's say if it's unaspected and it's at full power, that's great. They'll do great in the career. Okay. But they just head on, and they're always like trying to radiate energy out. Okay. And they like to take responsibilities. They're very confident, and that works great in the professional life. If they apply the same to the personal life, let's say if they're like very insensitive to their partners and they still want to do that same thing, where they want to always take the head-on approach with their partners, and they want to take the responsibilities and not thinking about the partner, it may not work very well.
Yeah.
Right? Unless the other partner is very strongly individual as well, where she can give you a head-on approach, and calm you down. But let's say if
Or
she
humble you.
has humble you, yeah, that's the word. Let's say if she has a debilitated sun, you have an exalted sun, and then you meet each other, and then and you get married to each other, what happens is, or let's say you're in a relationship, it may not work very well, because you're trying to be that you trying to show that strong individuality all the time, and if you apply the same principle in the personal life, it may not go as you would expect, because she doesn't have, because she being a debilitated sun, she may not be able to stand up for
Yeah.
herself.
And feel
uh,
resentful.
and what does debilitated sun mean? It's in Libra, and they always depend on other person to make the decision for them. They can't make decisions on by themselves. They want others to make, and then when they want to take a decision, they talk to a lot of people around them and then take a decision.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying this is going to be the case every time. It also depends on, I also always have to say asterisk. Okay.
Yeah. We're
If
talking
there's
about
a
an ideal situation, just studying on this. Of course, there are other influences. There is also free will, which comes in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other influences such as what is it in conjunction with what aspects, etc. Just imagining there is sun debilitated, no other positive aspects on it, and then sun is exalted, no other negative aspects of it. That's the scenario here, right? So that lady may not be able to, put up emotions out or put her individuality out, and she might be suppressing it inside. And the person with the exalted sun may not be able to understand what she's going through, just because she's not able to communicate. And it will build up, build up, build up, and after a while she'll burst out, okay, saying, well, I can't handle this anymore. But the person will be like, what's happening? I thought you've been fine. So that's where the lack of communication or lack of ignorance will come in. Okay.
Right.
So if you ask me, is exalted sun great? Well, it's great, but to what extent? How does this woman use that exalted sun in their life is the key to it. Are they using it, and they're still mindful of the people around them, or are they just getting carried away with energy? So that's what is important. So that's how you have to do the analysis. It's not like one shot and then sun is exalted, that means great. No. So exalted debilitations will help you determine the strength of planet. So what they've done is, to answer your question, exaltation means it's at the best of its ability.
Right.
Debilitation means it's at least of its ability. Okay. That's not going to be, the sun is not great here and the planet is not great there. And if you ask me, oh, so debilitation means is it bad and it's not going to be good at all? No, that's my explanation is what I've just told you. Doesn't mean that debilitation means it's always a bad thing. It really depends on if you can, overcome the debilitation by using the strength from other planet, such as Mars, and your free will.
Right. Okay. We talked about planets or graha. We talked about rashis or constellations. No, what's the right word? Sign, zodiac, rashis or zodiac. You touched a little bit upon nakshatras. I didn't really get that, so we can revisit that later on. But I want to get into houses and like the first thing of the horoscope. So first thing, what is a horoscope, and then within that, what are houses and what is their significance?
Again, I mean, there are 12 houses.
12 houses. Okay.
Yeah, it's 12 signs you have. and
Oh, okay.
each sign is assigned to a house. Okay,
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
okay,
Sorry.
that's no, no. But the original houses usually start in the western side. The original house, I think they have houses,
Hmm.
but the original house is Aries. It's the Aries is one,
Right.
and then Taurus is two, Gemini is three, and then it goes on.
Hmm.
Okay, that is the original houses. Whereas in when you come to the Vedic astrology, we have Lagna, which I just as I explained, that changes the first house based on your time of birth. It could be Virgo, it could be Libra, it could be anything else. So your first house is a variable,
Right.
whereas your first house in the western side
It's
is a
fixed.
constant.
Right.
Yeah. So the once we made it variable, it kind of added more precision to it. Okay. And what is houses? You're right. So each house has a significance. First house is self. The way you can think about it is 1 to 12 is cradle to grave.
Okay.
Okay, you're born, and then you have a family, which is your second house. You have a sibling, which is your third house. You have a mother, fourth house. Your talent, children is fifth house. Sixth house is your job. Seventh house is your partner. Eighth house is they call it death and sometimes, and it's unexpected things that happens in life, or it's humiliations. There's a lot of negative energy associated with the eighth house, and people are scared of eighth house. But if it's good, it takes you to immense heights as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ego
and
death,
then you
old personality dying, new one coming in.
that's it. And then you have ninth house, which is higher education, and then you have long travels associated with it, and then father as well. And then 10th house again, which is your career.
Hmm.
Okay, 11th house, which is my favorite house, is your willpower.
Hmm.
Okay, let's say all the other houses are not great. Okay, your 11th house is really strong. Okay, that means your willpower is very strong. So usually what happens is they use their willpower to overcome all the things that they have in life. Okay, so that willpower will help them just overcome all the obstacles and then turn the fate in the life. So to me, 11th house is my favorite house, if you ask me. And then comes the 12th house, which is house of expenditure, hospitals, and kind of what they say is if you want moksha, then that's
Hmm.
the highest, and spiritualism. It's all linked to 12th house. So
Yeah.
that's the significance of each house. As I mean, I've just told you one line, but there's a lot of other things associated with each house. But that's just like a high level way to look at the houses.
Are we missing out at any other basic components? We've covered houses, we've covered planets, we've covered rashis. What else are we missing here?
No, I don't think so. We are missing out the basic components, but it's just the depth of these
Yeah, yeah.
components
I mean,
studied. Yeah. So I think we covered them components here. Let's say if you talk about the science itself, you can go into much depth about the science. If you talk about the houses, again, you can go into much depth. There's something called Kendra, Trikona in each houses, like 1, 6, 8, 12 are Dustan houses. That means they're not very pleasant houses. So and whereas 1, 4, 7, 10, 1, 5, 9 Trikona and Kendra houses, which are the much better houses of all the houses. So again, it just goes on. It's not 1 hour is not enough to touch base each and every component in the detail.
yeah.
But I think what we're trying to figure out here is understand and appreciate the depth of the subject, and how much there's to learn about the subject before even we can come to a conclusion or make an analysis of a subject or form an opinion about the subject. These are all the things you have to understand first, and see how difficult it is actually to form. Even if I need to tell someone when I'm doing the analysis, if I need to say, oh, you're short tempered, I look at 100 different things before coming to that conclusion,
Right.
right? I can't just say, oh, your son is here, or your son is in 6th house, you might be short tempered. I just don't say that.
Hmm.
Even if I'm making one small prediction about your personality, one small analysis about your personality, I look at the whole horoscope. If there's short tempered here based on this planet, is it being kind of overcompensated by any other planet,
Hmm.
or is any some other planet helping him to overcome that or suppress it, right? So there's so many things you have to look at. So that's why I always keep focusing, please look at the horoscope as a holistic approach. Okay, not just the individual planet, or just because sun is exalted, moon is debilitated, don't base the predictions on that. Make sure you look at the horoscope as a whole. That will change your perception on it for sure.
Okay. I want to now get into the way you practice it because you have very different takes on what this is supposed to be. But before that, you wrote a few things down before the recording, so you wanted to cover them. Have we covered everything?
Okay, I think so. I think we touched based on how the astrology can be misinterpreted if the
Yeah.
people are ignorant. So
Yeah.
we have touched that, and it's important to have an open mind. And we touched based on the most important points is the different Western and the Vedic astrology. I think so. I think these are all my main points and how astrology is uh, used in Indian cultures and how the principle is same across all the other countries. So
Okay.
I think my points have been pretty much covered. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody listening to this who might be drawn to astrology because of various reasons, and they might have clicked on this episode because they want to learn a little bit more, but they have a lot of priors. They probably have a Jyotish who's not great, who's not doing a great job, and it's not really giving them. So if they want to follow this path, what set some expectations with them. What can they get from it, and what it is not good for?
I think first thing is when you everyone can learn the basics. There's enough knowledge on the Google.
Hmm.
You go type in Lord of each houses, exalted planets, debilitated planets, what are the friends and enemies, houses, lagnas, all of this can be learned.
Okay.
Okay. And then if you want to go into depth, water elements, fire elements, dual signs, etc. So these are all the basics of astrology.
Hmm.
And that's what I've been taught by my parents. But where you take that from there, it really depends.
Hmm.
Okay. Depends on your logical thinking and also your experience and the more and your personality. Okay.
Hmm.
The way you want to look at astrology is think it's very difficult for me because I mean I'm a Telugu and my mom has explained me in a Telugu, gave me this quote in a Telugu. I'm trying to translate that into English now. Okay,
You
when
say it
you
in
look at
Telugu anyway, and then we can try and translate it because somebody might give us a good translation.
fair enough. Yeah, I'll say that in Telugu first and then try and translate into English.
Yeah.
గోరంత మంచి కోసం కొంద మొత్తం తవ్విన పర్వాలేదు. What that means is for a little bit of good, you won't lose. You should be ready to dig the entire mountain.
You
Okay,
should be or should not be.
you should
You
be
should be.
willing
Okay.
to dig the entire mountain. So
Right.
so just for a bit of good within the nail, you should be able to dig the entire mountain
Hmm.
because that good, what you're searching for is some amount of goodness, some amount
Hmm.
of power, strength in the horoscope. Okay, so when people look at it, if you just focus on the negatives, you're not helping the person. What I focus on when I look at the horoscope is what are the positives?
Hmm.
What is because right now he's still alive. He's been doing something in his life. That means there's some power. And what is
Hmm.
the power he has? When you focus on the power, then you'll start thinking, how can you use that power to overcome the negatives? But when you're too focused on negatives, oh my God, sun debilitated, moon debilitated, Venus debilitated, uh, then you just stop there. But there's always, I mean, so far I haven't come across a single horoscope there is where there is no power. There'll be some power hidden somewhere
Right.
from some planet. It could be Jupiter, it could be Mars, it could be Sun. So you just need to focus on that and then say, this is your power. Use it in a different way. I'll give you an example. If Mercury, let's say if Mercury is sitting in Scorpio, again, asterisks, okay? Disclaimers that we are just talking about an ideal situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mercury is sitting in Scorpio, okay? Which what is Scorpio? It is a water sign with a very in-depth analysis sign. Okay, it can lead to great research. Okay, Mercury is your intelligence sitting in Scorpio, which means they have the capacity to do or conduct a lot of research. So it is great for research.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
but that is a positive side which I mentioned. What is the negative side? Overthinking.
Obsession.
Okay,
Yeah.
when they apply it to the relationship side
Hmm.
or when they apply the same thing to anything, like in the day-to-day life, it might lead to why is the person talking like that? Have I
Yeah.
done something wrong? Or even with the relationship impact, they can just think about the same thing again and again and again. So overthinking. So overthinking in research is like great. Overthinking in personal life is not great.
Yeah.
So you have the energy. How are you using it?
Yeah.
Is a right? So that is the key problem. So you channel the same energy in a different way, you'll
Mm,
be great.
mm,
But you channel it in a different way, that's wrong. It's like the same thing. Sun exalted, you have energy there. That's great, man. Use the energy. But if you use that energy to overpower your partner, that relationship won't sustain.
right.
But when you use that in a corporate world to prove your confidence, and then to not be to put your ideas forward, to put your creativity forward, and not scared of the world, then that's great. You'll go up
Mm,
the ladder. So you have the individuality. So it's how you use the energy that you have been given. If you use it in a positive way, that's great. If you use it in a negative way, that's where you lose your battle. So is that's what my meaning is. So my perspective is always look for good in the horoscope, and try and help them out. Even if there is a lot of bad, there's always going to be good. Okay.
and that is how you would be able to help them address the bad as well, right? If you do not give them the good, it's just going to be an exercise in doom and futility.
Yeah, there's no point, because you're kind of just letting know, oh, you have a lot of bad things. Fair enough. That's very demotivating to hear. Or they might actually know about it. They're like, okay, but what should I do from here? So that's why I'm not into predictions. Like if you come to me saying Akshay will I earn 100 crores by next year, I'm like, I don't know, mate. Okay, because I'm not gonna go into predictions saying if I tell you, Saga, next 3 years of your life is going to be very difficult, you'll be like, okay, but what should I do with it? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm not giving you solutions. I'm just telling you it's going to be difficult. But what is it? How is it going to help you?
yeah,
So I didn't really, I mean, it is helpful when there are a lot of remedies and all, but I'm not into remedies personally.
yeah.
So like I don't recommend remedies and all. So from my perspective, so that's why I started focusing on just the personality side. Okay,
Mm,
I focus on your next 3 years. I'm going to tell you it's going to be difficult, because you'll lose a temper, because you'll be short tempered, because you'll start overthinking, Saga, and you might misunderstand your work colleagues, your partner, your children, and you might be misinterpreting what they're trying to communicate to you. So just have an open mind. Okay,
yeah,
and then that might help you. At least what I'm doing is I'm kind of telling you what is your weakness in your personality, what is your strength in your personality, and that will help you actually to focus on it and then work on it. Okay, so rather than just giving you a prediction and then not able to do anything with it. So that's why I started focusing more on the personality, and I've been actually very, you know I think satisfied with the way I've been helping people, because that kind of gives me the fulfillment that okay, at least I'm able to help the people, and try and work on them, give them the realization what's going wrong in their life, if they're not already aware, and do the personality analysis. So I've been just doing the personality analysis, and as a passionate thing, and been taking it from there really. So
do you okay, I want to share a story. Someone I knew, I can't really name them, it'll be unfair, but someone I knew years ago, they were told by some astrologer that the next 5 years of your life, I might be getting some details wrong, but the truth is there, the emotional truth is there, as Hassan Minat said it. So for the next 5 years of your life, it's going to be really bad. So the person asks, oh, what do I do? He's like, "Tooti plate mein khana padega." So like, if you have to eat, you'll have to eat them on broken plates. I think what he's implying is that you need to be extremely miserly. I don't think that served the person very well. And those 5 years have now, I think, become 25 years. It's not really served them very well. So somebody who already does not take their life seriously. They think that they always need to react. The world is non-understandable. And I mean, they are not really into willpower, right? They're very second-handed about the way they live. And on that, if you give them this kind of an advice, which is not really true if you think about it, given what you've just told me, I think not only have you done a disservice, I think you've done a sin. So any comment on that?
well, you're asking my perspective. My perspective is obviously that I'm not into all of those things, and that's why, because initially when I started astrology, I started off with predictions,
Mm,
materialistic predictions mainly. Like people used to ask me, um, or when I look at it, it's like, oh, next 2 years, you might lose your money, or you might have children with problem, or I might tell you might gain properties, you might buy a vehicle,
Right.
and so on. So that was my focus. But I'm like, okay, where am I getting with this?
Yeah.
Okay. And I started focusing more on the personality side. And maybe the reason is when I started talking to, because I'm in the UK, I've got a lot of friends from all over the world, from Lithuania, from, you could say, from Greece, and from the UK itself, and from Malaysia, and so on. So when you talk to them, they're more focused on the personality side,
Mm.
personality elements, right?
Mm.
We talk about a lot of different things on the personality side, and we discuss in detail about the personality elements. To them, losing a car or buying a car or buying a house, etc., means nothing. They're like, how do I improve myself on a day-to-day basis is what they're focused on. And then once I started understanding, okay, personality, and I can actually gauge more understanding from the personality, I kind of really loved it, and I stopped doing the predictions, and I
Yeah.
got into personality. To answer your question, yeah, my perspective is, I don't know if it's going to be, I do not have the full understanding, okay, of the remedies, of how they work. And obviously, I believe in the pujas. I love pujas because it's not that I believe in the physical existence of God, that Ganapati or Shiva is sitting there and looking at what you're doing every day and then trying to punish you based on your actions. That's not my concept of
Yeah. Yeah.
God. My concept is the mantras.
Mm.
I believe in God because the belief is one of the most important thing in life.
Mm.
Once you believe, when you're going through the tough times, it's that's belief that will help you overcome things. Okay, it's like, oh, God is there, I'm sure he'll take care of it. Okay, because people, like, I can't instill that confidence in other people. Like, the amount of the confidence they get through having the trust in God is
Mm.
just immense.
Yeah.
And who am I to take away that confidence, right? So I do believe in God, and because when I'm going through my low time, I need God, right?
Mm.
So, and at the same time, the mantras, I believe in the mantras. Like, I recite mantras every day,
Mm.
right? And when you recite them properly, the vibrations it generates is just so good. It just create the positive vibrations within your body
Mm.
when you do the Manusukta, Mantra Pushpa, all this mantras,
Mm.
Hanuman Chalisa even. When you recite them, they just generate so much positive energy within you. And that helps me control my emotions. My only goal in life is to control my emotions, my anger, my jealous, my happiness, sadness, everything should be under my control.
Yeah.
Okay, for that you need meditation, and this mantras will help you to control the mind. So whatever you can do to control your mind, you have to do that. Then you don't need astrology, because
Mm.
astrology is nothing but your mind, your
Mm.
personality.
Mm.
Okay, so if you can control your mind, that's great, you don't need astrology. But
Mm.
if you can't control your mind, then you want to understand where your weak points are, strong points are. That's what we're dwelling into. So far we're talking about personality. What does personality mean? Your anger, your individuality, everything is just sitting in your mind
Mm.
at the end of the day, right?
Mm.
So if you can control your mind, that's great. So,
You could do
and
both,
that's
though. You could use astrology with your willpower, with, let's say, Kriya Yoga and a lot of mantras and all, and then you could attack certain areas. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
if you're adding things up, if you have
Mm.
a control of your mind, if you're using astrology, if you're
Mm.
using all these yogas and you're doing mantras, and if you have faith in God, oh my God, that's a very powerful combination, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's when you will be humble, and that's when
Mm.
people will actually look up to you. People will, you'll have more control over your life. You know
Mm.
what you're doing in life. You'll have the clarity. So if you're doing the things which you mentioned, like, for example, I have immense faith in God. I do the mantras every day. I have faith in astrology, and I have respect towards all the other things that's happening around me, like Kriya Yoga, or anything which uh, doesn't mean if I don't understand it, it's wrong. That's the attitude we have to change. It's like, if I don't know anything about if I don't know anything about another subject or another part of astrology or anything like palmistry or anything, there's a lot of different things, tarot reading, there is palmistry, but I don't have the knowledge in them. So
Right.
I just have an open mind. So
Mm.
maybe 10 years down the line, when someone, a person with true knowledge, comes to me and explain the subject to me, then I might understand the complete nuance behind it.
Right.
But right now, I'm ignorant about them. When I'm
Mm.
ignorant, I don't dwell too much about it. At the same time, I don't form conclusions on the subject. I'm
Mm.
just open minded. just waiting for in the future. Even about the remedies, like I don't have a opinion on them. If you ask me honestly, I'm telling you, I don't have any opinion on them. But I think they might work. I think they will work. I don't know, but
What are remedies anyway? Like, are they pujas mostly, or mantra yoga and all that? Because that
no, I
does
mean
work.
the one which you just mentioned, like eating it in a
Oh,
what?
no, no, that was not a remedy. That was a metaphor. And he, I think, screwed that person's life. That was a
But
metaphor.
okay, but uh, remedies are different forms,
Yeah.
right? Puja is one of them, but
Hmm.
that's not the only form of remedy.
Hmm.
Okay, let's say you have Kuja dosham. Okay, what they say is you have to go get married to a tree.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
so that's one of the remedies for Kuja
Yeah.
dosham, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, if you ask me, I'm too ignorant to comment on that
Yeah.
because then I don't understand the logic behind it. But just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. You
If you
can
ask
still
me,
keep an
I
open
don't.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep an open mind. Maybe someday I understand the meaning behind it or why it came down or why people have suggested it. But
Hmm.
at least in my current opinion, I don't have what do you call this anything about it. I don't understand it, so I'm just keeping an open mind towards the remedies.
Yeah.
So that's what. So remedies are different forms, but yes, pujas, meditation. If you talk about it, I keep recommending people do meditation,
Sadhana, all that. Yeah.
sadhana, yeah, which has direct impact on your mind.
Hmm.
Is what I'm more focused on. Like, go do meditation. If you want to go, the reason I encourage people to go believe in God, go to temple, is when you go to temple, you find your peace there.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
not able
If you
to
do.
find peace at, yeah,
If you do, because see, with me, I mean, I for a while was like a very hardened atheist, but then I realized whenever I'm flying, I suddenly believe in God. So what the hell, right? So I had to explore like what's going on over here, and I think I'm not much of a bhakt kind of person. Like I'm not bhakti, devotion, pure devotion is not for me. But if I experiment and if I see basically, does it work or not, right? So I'll try something. If it works for me, well, then my belief grows up, grows bigger and bigger. So that's how I deal with it. So my conception of God is like it is natural. It's like like gravity. So if you do not jump from a building with a parachute, your legs are gonna get broken. Like there's a high chance that that's gonna happen. So and also like an anti-entropic device, like generating some order from the chaos and the disintegration coming in. And if the sages in various cultures, but especially in India, they found ways to tap into it through mantras. Essentially, it's an engineering exercise if you really think about it. So that's how I view it. What do you think of that?
well, I mean, my perspective is very different, obviously. So to me, yeah, the the concept of God is very important
Hmm.
for everyone in life, especially when you go through your low times. That's the belief is very important. As I just I'm repeating myself, but I think it's the belief which is very important, which will drive you forward
Hmm.
during your low times. That's point number
You
one.
can build belief though, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Like building belief
Yes,
with,
of course,
yeah.
you can build belief, but if you're associating the belief with results,
Ah, okay,
that's
okay. That becomes the problem. Right,
that
right.
becomes the problem because
Mm-hmm.
we are transferring our
Do
responsibilities
some. Okay.
to God. Okay,
Mm.
what I'm saying is I'll do my 100% without thinking about the result. Okay, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, does I take the ownership of my own results. Okay,
Mm.
if it's positive, I'm grateful to God. If it's negative, I'm like I should have done something else. I won't
Mm.
just blame God there.
Yeah.
Okay, because the result is not in favor of me, right? But what I'm saying is when it's not right, and when I'm, let's say, if people are going through the tough times, that if you don't have the belief and if you don't have the support, anything to lean on to, which what will you do? So
Yeah.
people will find it immensely difficult to navigate through their life without the belief system, right?
Right. Right.
So that's why the belief becomes difficult. It could be Allah, it could be Jesus, it could be our own Hindu culture, but that belief is important.
Mm.
It's all the same. It's
Mm.
just a belief. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're believing in some higher power so that they can support you during your tough times. And if you maintain that during the good times, you'll be more humble because you're not
Metaphorically, it's like
actively.
orienting yourself to go up and aim up. I mean, I guess that's the
Yes,
point. Okay.
yes, that's right.
Mm.
I mean, that's a complete different subject, spiritualism.
Mm.
Yeah, soul and trying to detach, and that's
And
I'm
merge.
into yeah, I'm
Mm.
into spiritualism, but I won't touch base at all. That's a
Yeah. Yeah.
complete. different subject. But I'm just, but I think over here, I think we're kind of deviated from the astrology subject and
Yeah.
started talking about God. But I think to summarize, my perspective is yes, I do not believe in the physical existence of God, that they're looking at us, but they're trying to punish us. God is a great system which we know I mean, where we can believe in it and take a lot of courage from it. Okay. And then do the mantras, the vibrations it generates is just immense. I can't explain you how good of vibrations they are. And the four Vedas we have is great. And all the literature that's been derived from those four Vedas is absolutely astonishing when you read them. And when you read them, it's not like you just read them as you want. You have to read them. There's a way to
Yeah. I
recite
mean,
the
there's certain
mantras.
meters. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I learned it from a priest in a temple, like all the mantras, so that I recite them the way it should be
Mm,
recited.
mm.
So the proper vibrations can be generated, right? So that's important. And then I think I take the ownership of my own actions, even with astrology, just because the problem is the other common reason you keep coming across on astrology is they've done the matchmaking, but we still took a divorce. Astrology doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm like, well, there's a problem in the horoscope. Let's say your seventh house, which is related to partner, is not strong, and you have a problem in the personalities of both the personalities. No one has actually acknowledged it or solved it. We just looked at some points or matched the horoscopes and then just dwell into it. I mean, dived into it. That's not going to solve the problem. So if there's a, just because you matched horoscopes, that means nothing.
Yeah.
So points at the end of the day is kind of trying to match the personalities, but that's not enough again.
Right.
So it's very high level of thing. What you have to do is try and understand, use the horoscope to understand the other person in depth and see what are the strong points, what is the weak
Mm,
points, and do they match with me, kind of thing. So
yeah.
when people come to me, I never give them the answers. I just give them enough information to enable them to make a decision. Like people keep coming to me for matchmaking. I don't do matchmaking. But what I do is, if they give me a horoscope, I tell them, look, he's very passionate, he's very intelligent, but he could be very short tempered, and sometimes he could be very influenced based on the situations around him, and some it could be over dominating. So you seem to be over dominating as well based on your horoscope. Are you okay with this? But I give them about 50 or 60 questions. Go ask them. He seems to be very um, very frugal with his money, or
Mm,
could be spending a lot of money on materialistic world, and
yeah.
you doesn't seem to be like it. And also love language, everyone love language is different,
Mm,
right? So someone likes to be more expressive, some are
right.
very emotional, some are like likes to show through the actions, some are uh, vocal about their love, and they
Mm,
want the other person to express their love like in a more vocal way.
yeah.
When it doesn't happen, they get very upset, right? So all of these things, you might be thinking, why do you need astrology? Because they can just talk to the person. But trust me, not everyone does it. If they do it, why would there be divorces right now, right?
Right. Right.
So people don't think about those things when they're actually making a decision or when they're jumping into it. So sometimes ignorance dominates. Sometimes people don't know or might underestimate the other person, right?
Yeah.
That's where astrology comes in, because you're coming to know, let's say in the arranged marriage process, right? So you're meeting a person for the first time in your life, and you have to make a decision within 2 or 3 months or 4 months. It's very nerve wracking, but
Mm,
yeah, you have to make a decision and you have to take a leap of faith.
mm,
That's where maybe astrology can be useful. Okay, so what we can do is look at the horoscope, look at the personality of the other person, look at your personality, and we can kind of say, this is his personality. What do you think? Take a decision. Okay. At least they have the full facts before them before taking a decision.
yeah.
Okay. But I'm not telling them he's the right person, he's the wrong person, marry him, don't marry. That's not what I'm not giving advice. I'm only giving suggestions.
Yeah.
So using horoscope, using the personality analysis with horoscope. So at least with that, they're taking ownership of their own actions. At
Yeah.
least they have, and what happens is at least they are thinking in the right way rather than being ignorant.
Yeah.
And they know what questions to ask. When I give them those 50, 60 questions, they go and have the discussions with the person.
Mm.
And trust me, they come back saying, oh my God, I didn't ever think about those questions and kind of understood actually this is not for me. And they might say, oh, this is for me,
Mm.
actually. And
Mm.
so that's how it works. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm more interested in.
This reminds me of the MBTI score in Jungian analysis, and then you have those whatever the INTP, INTJ as well. Obviously, that comes from a different place, but it's just you're trying to get to some kind of a personality match between people and see how that particular thing works. Also, it gives. This is a good thing. It doesn't give the clients the ability to say, "Oh, Pandit ne kaha tha." So I you can't just blame it on the Pandit or the Jyotish, right? So
Yeah.
that yeah. Well, man, this has been my longest episode so far. So thank you.
All right. Okay. Hopefully, cut
Okay.
down it so that people won't get
I'm not
bored.
cutting anything down, bro. I mean, they will watch everything. But any parting thoughts?
No, I think that's everything about it. I think my whole point of astrology is it's a great subject. Please embrace it with a lot of positivity. Once you understand the subject, you'll understand the depth of the subject and how great of a subject it is,
Yeah.
and have an open mind about it. And learn the basics about astrology, at least the basics, so that people won't just trick you into things, and have a and try and look at it a holistic way, not just at a single planet, not just at moon or nakshatra of a moon, or just a zodiac sign of sun. That
Mm.
will not give you the personality analysis. Always look at the whole picture,
Yeah.
and that's when it's going to be helpful.
Perfect. Thank you, Akshay. And bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you all.